What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? The NBA Eastern Conference Semifinals are set, and man, do we have some powerhouse matchups on tap. We're talking the Raptors versus the Sixers and the Bucks versus the Boston Celtics. The stars will be out in full force. As always, our man LDub joins us with his no-nonsense take on each series and offers his predictions on which teams will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. So stay close. We're about to get into it on Sports 360. The NBA Finals have moved into the second round, at least for the Eastern Conference. And as always, we're checking in with our man LDub to get his view on the games. LDub, what's up, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm having my refreshing Friday, man. I'm just ready to get into the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to be some weekend too. I mean, today we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference Semifinals, which kick off tomorrow with Toronto and Philadelphia. But, we still have some unfinished business in the West. San Antonio and the Nuggets are playing a game 7 on Saturday, which is tomorrow as of this recording. And Golden State and the Clippers are playing tonight in Los Angeles. So still some work to do there, but the Eastern Conference is set. We begin tomorrow with Philly at Toronto. And so want to start with that series, get your thoughts on the series, how those teams got here. I mean, both teams were fairly impressive in the first round, right? Winning 4-1 over their respective opponents, and now are facing off in the Eastern Conference semifinals. So, I have my thoughts on it, but this time you're going to give your thoughts first. Because listen, I think last time though, in the East, I think we were both on the same page, right? We thought the top 4 seeds were going to advance, and that's exactly what happened. But now we have those 4 seeds about to face off against, their respective opponents, and it's going to be interesting. So let's start first with the Philly and Toronto series. And you can start anywhere you want. If you want to talk about how they got here or just jump into this series, whatever your pleasure is, we can start wherever you want.
Yeah, I'll give a brief little description of how they got there. Taking all the teams, like you said, in the East actually got there, as expected, that they were going to take care of the top seeds, were going to take care of business. So Philadelphia did exactly what they were supposed to do with Brooklyn, and quite naturally, the first game is always the testing game because you're in uncharted waters. But they came up after the first game, after their loss, and they turned up the volume, man. They were more physical, they were more explosive, and that they proved that they were better than the Nets in every aspect. And we know, the offensive power that they have with all those players that can score. And I told you, they had 5 guys that was almost averaging 20 points or more. It's hard to beat a team like that when they come with their A game. And as far as the Raptors, definitely they control the tempo, the rhythm, and everything during the games when they played the Magic. I mean, it wasn't for the miraculous 3-point shot that DJ Augustine hit, they probably would have been swept. But the Raptors were just too powerful for the Magic, and they didn't have an answer for Kawhi Leonard. So that's how the teams got here. And just using these 2 teams, I had the Sixers winning this series against the Raptors, and the reason I have them winning is Kawhi is the only consistent player that the Raptors have. And don't get me wrong, Siakam is playing good, he's playing hard, but it don't always equate to victories. What Kawhi Leonard does, the scoring, the rebound, the defending, I'm talking about effortlessly scoring the other day against the Magic. What he's capable of doing, it always equates to winning. The Sixers, they have the same, format that the Warriors have. Basically, they got guys that can score from the outside, inside. They got athletes. They got Jimmy Butler, who's playing great defense, and Ben Simmons, who was always a matchup problem. With those guys playing the way they're playing, it's gonna almost be impossible to beat them, man. If they play to their potential, and if they do anything similar to what they did the first series, 76ers do anything similar to what they did in the first series, I see them winning that series 4-2.
It's interesting. I mean, I think this is an intriguing matchup. I think all of the series, even as the West shakes out, I mean, are going to just really be some interesting series to watch. I actually am going with Toronto in this series. I know the Sixers are super talented. I'm a little concerned about their bench. I don't think they have much on their bench. I mean, they had that, Ennis and Scott and, the big fella that comes in, Marjanovic, I think his name is. And,
right.
But they don't really have a lot of scoring off their bench. I mean, Scott sometimes, if he gets open, can hit, those 3-pointers. I thought Redick was inconsistent in the Brooklyn series. I thought that Philly was fortunate to win Game 4 in Brooklyn. And if that would have been a 2-2 series, it would have really been interesting. And I just like Toronto's bench a little bit better with Ibaka coming off the bench and Van Fleet coming off the bench. And I think that other kid, Powell. I think their starting fives are talented on both sides. And then the other part to me is Embiid and whether his knee's going to hold up. Because he did miss one game, I think, against the Nets. And so we got to see about that. But I like, I think in this one, I'm going for Toronto, even though I hear what you're saying. I think the one thing they have for sure who's going to show up every game is Kawhi. I do think Siakam is good. Lowry is going to be inconsistent. He's always has been in the playoffs. But I kind of like Toronto in this one. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who they place Kawhi Leonard on. I mean, is he going to play Ben Simmons, or is he going to primarily? I'm sure he'll move around a little bit, but I wonder, who they put him on. And if they put him on Ben Simmons, that's going to be interesting to see if Philly's going to be able to effectively get into their offense.
And to piggyback on what you just talked about, I'm going to break it down to you with their reserve. You're right. You got Serge Ibaka, you got Norman, you got Van Fleet, coming off the bench. Like I said, with Kyle Lowry being as inconsistent as he's been this year, and with Danny Green not shooting the ball the way he's been shooting in previous playoffs, you're going to need Serge to be perfect almost. You're going to need Powell to be perfect and Van Fleet. And we know from this whole season, they haven't been. Where you got guys, the best pickup of any team, well, I would say second best pickup would be Greg Monroe. The Sixers picked up Greg Monroe. He's going to be instrumental in contributing to the victories. If someone like Embiid or even Ben Simmons, who's a big guy, has to play big guy sometime with the lineup. He's going to be instrumental. And you got the consummate professional in T.J. McConnell. And this kid, not fast, not quickest, don't jump high. He just gets the job done, and he annoys you. You got, like I said, Boban, the big guy, Marjanovic. This guy has overplayed his potential this whole season, not just in the games, the whole season. I mean, the guy has shown signs of great offensive skills sometimes, just with the position that he gets. He gets so close to the goal, there's nothing you can do. And then you got Scott, who hit the game-winning shot that really, I think, determined the whole attitude of the series when they played against when they played the last series against the Nets, when he hit that three, I mean, it just killed their spirits. I think those guys, just let's forget about the starters. Let's just use the bench, what you said. Those guys by far would outplay Toronto any day of the week with the way they played this year, just from their performances. So now we already, so let's say we cancel that out. Now you're just dealing with the starting five. and everybody knows on paper, as well as the games that were played, the first round, that Sixers offensive guys contributed well more. And they didn't always do it at the same time, but because they have five guys that can score, there was always two guys that really scored and then one or two that just kind of like did the intangibles. Or Jimmy Butler would play great defense. But that last game they played, when everybody was on, it showed what they're capable of. I mean, 150-point game easily, And I don't think the Raptors are consistently able to score 110 points. Not consistently. So, and that's, that's good nights that they're beating people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I agree with you there, Dub. I mean, the one thing I would say in as a counter to that though is I watched the Nets, especially their guards, right? D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert, even Dinwiddie. I mean, they kind of went on wherever they wanted to on the floor. And Russell didn't shoot particularly well. He did in the second half of the first game, but overall he didn't shoot particularly well. But those guards went anywhere they wanted to. And, a little part of me worries about, well, not worries, but, I look at the Sixers defense and I think Toronto is better. And so, I hear you on the firepower, but Tobias Harris is not a lockdown defender. You know what I mean? You do have Butler, you do have Embiid back there, but I really just wonder about, and JJ Redick certainly is not a lockdown defender. So I just you do have the firepower, but at some point you still have to stop some guys too, even in today's NBA. And I think on that score, Toronto's a bit better. And I think defense shows up more consistently than offense because, as Redick showed and every NBA player shows, sometimes your shot just isn't there. But I think defense has a better chance of showing up more often. And so if there's a counter to all that firepower that Philly has, I think it's the defensive side. And again, I really am going to be watching closely if Kawhi is on Ben Simmons, because if he can, nullify Simmons to some degree, I think that's going to affect that firepower that Philly has too.
Okay, we just saw though in this playoff that it was a game that Embiid didn't play. And Boban came in, and I'm telling you, man, it was like, people were like, man, this guy will be starting on most NBA teams, the way he's playing, and Nets didn't have an answer for him. I mean, and we know the Nets are a good team. They did everything they were supposed to do to get to the playoffs, and they're going to have a great team in the future, add a few pieces. But I can't see the Raptors lose. Let's just say Embiid is the franchise player, right? I said, right? Embiid is the franchise.
That's right.
So let's say the Raptors lose Kawhi Leonard. What chance do they have? Not one. They don't have a prayer. If Kawhi Leonard goes out or gets hurt, they have no prayer. So that's, everyone knows that in any game, not just a playoff game, in any game, you're only one player away. I mean, one injury away from like losing it all. And we're saying just because of the talent that the Sixers have on the floor, they can survive with their superstar out of the game, maybe 1 or 2 games. The Raptors wouldn't have a chance without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So we'll see. I mean, you're going with the Sixers, and I'm going to go with the folks up north. And
it's noted. It's noted.
and it tips off tomorrow in Toronto. So we'll see how that series plays out. And then on Sunday in Milwaukee, we have the Bucks and the Celtics tipping off. And I think we spoke about this a little bit a day or two ago, and we were both sort of saying, hey, maybe Boston. I've thought about it a little bit, and I'm going with Milwaukee in this one. I think Milwaukee has just been the better team all year. I think Boston's been a little bit up and down, and I just think Milwaukee not only is talented, but I think they're hungry, and I think they're playing better. Boston swept Indiana, but they should have swept Indiana. But those games were probably more competitive than they should have been. And so I think Milwaukee's playing better. I think Milwaukee is actually the better team. And so I'm going to go with Milwaukee in this one over Boston. How do you see it?
Man, again, Boston treated the Pacers like stepchildren, man. Yeah, the Pacers was wounded, but when you got a bird nest down, you're supposed to step on it. Eat all the eggs that you can. They did it. And again, they I just don't see the Celtics, the way they played and the way I saw Kyrie running the offense, and then last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, how he would take over a game. That's the Kyrie of old, man. That has nothing to do with the Kyrie that started off the season talking, down to his players and everything. But I still think the Celtics have the best bench in the East. And again, based on starting 5 already being good, now you got a great bench. You got to remember last year, Rozier killed the Bucks by himself. Now Rozier going to be on the bench. And now you got to deal with Kyrie at, 100%. So if the thought of mine is, man, if that's what Rozier did to us last year, Kyrie's back, man, we got to really, really get prepared. But there's no way to prepare for Kyrie because Kyrie don't know half time what he's going to do. He's an instinctive player. He just plays, but he's so great. I mean, it just looks like he knows what he's doing at all times. But he's creating that as he go. I have the Celtics winning this series 4-3. It will go 7. I think, with Kyrie taking over at the end of the games, the Bucks won't have an answer for him. And that's going to be the tell and tell. The Bucks, like I said, as they stated, they took care of business also with Detroit. They did what they were supposed to do. They did what a number 1 seed is supposed to do, number 8 seed. We're going to play y'all because we got to, but we get this over with quickly. and that's exactly what they did.
Right.
They just swept them off the floor. And I don't think that helps them going into the series. You know how you say each game is a 2-month game to the next game, right? I don't think Bucks got anything out of that series they played against Detroit because it's not realistic to match up to things that they would have to go through. Every position they outmatched Detroit. And when the bench players came in, they were outmatched. So it wasn't a realistic approach to what the playoff was, is going to be and should be. We all know Detroit was the weakest team in the playoff. I mean, some days, and I felt bad for Coach because I know he's prepared those guys. They made to the playoffs. They were the 8th best team in the East. I mean, so it just didn't look like it when they got on the floor. It looked sometimes like the point guard. What's the point guard name for Detroit? I mean, for the Detroit Pistons.
Reggie Jackson.
Reggie Jackson. Man, I'm having a brain freeze. It looked like he didn't even want to play some games. Seriously. I mean, I'll sit there and I watched it, and I was like, man, this dude don't even look like he want to be here today. And that was a bad sign. And it ended up like it looked like he didn't want to be there because they got swept and beat badly every game. So I don't think the Bucks really have warmed up or tuned up to the playoff mode. So it's going to really be like their first game, and you can't get behind on Boston. So I'm going with Boston.
Okay.
In 4 games out of the 7, 4-3.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing both of these series different. I mean, I just like Milwaukee. I mean, they've been the best team. They were the best team in the league record-wise. They have one of the best players in the game on their team. And look, I'm a Kyrie Irving fan, always have been. And, he's just a special talent. And so I think it's going to be fun to watch him. But I just like the way that Milwaukee can put the ball in the hole. They got a lot of shooters. They can stretch the floor, which gives, Giannis all kinds of lanes to drive. They have the home court advantage. And again, Boston has been a little bit inconsistent. I think it's going to be a very, very competitive series. But I'm looking for the Bucks to come out of this one. I'm looking for them to prevail.
If they would have had Malcolm Brogdon, Brogdon would have been healthy, and if Ilyasova, I think that's his name, Ilyasova was still, healthy and shooting the ball like he had been in previous years, I would think they had a chance because with those two guys, you're not only taking leadership off the floor with Brogdon, but you're taking between Brogdon and Ilyasova, you're taking away about 25 points, that you can ink into the game. You can ink it into whatever the total is going to be because they were consistent and proven player. But with those two out, I just don't see it. I mean, Boston owned them last year, literally the way Rozier did Bledsoe now. He just caused too much problems. So I know psychologically that's weighing on Bledsoe, and Bledsoe is playing a lot better this year than he was last year. But I think where they're going to have a problem is with Bledsoe really not being a point guard. He's a scoring guard, a combo guard. It's going to come down to where who shoots the ball in the last few seconds when you need it. He's one of those guys that I know he feels he's just as good as any player in the league. I mean, he plays that way sometimes. But Giannis, again, being that this is probably the best chance they've ever had to win a championship, he's probably thinking differently, and he's probably more vocal than he would have been in the past. And that might be a problem because you're into uncharted territories, with what they're going to be doing this year, playing against the Celtics. So all those factors, like I said, so many variables. Again, remember, these are just my opinions, man, and I did the research. Still, at the end of the day, the game got to be played.
Yeah, you say that all the time, and it's the truth. They got to go out there, both teams. They have to play the game. At some point, coaches are going to have to draw up some plays, make some adjustments, whether in game or between games. So, there's a lot that goes on. And then, of course, as you talked about earlier with the Sixers and the Raptors, injuries could play a part in it as well. But so look, it's going to be a very competitive, very intense series, I think, and very exciting. I think both of them are going to be. So, Dub, first time around, when we went through the East, we were on the same page. This time around, we see it differently.
And you know what? That's the competitive nature that makes it good about this. I wouldn't want you to be agreeable with me all the time, and I know you wouldn't want me to be agreeable.
That's right.
That's what makes it competitive because, tomorrow is not here yet. So you can speculate and I can speculate, and we won't know who's right until tomorrow comes. So that, like I said, that gives everybody the same playing field. And
that's right.
In the whole scheme of life, that's all you want, man, is just an even playing field. Let me have my opinions, and if they are correct, I don't taunt or flaunt it. I just say, hey, I think I know a little bit. Same thing with yourself.
Yep.
And that's all it's about. Growth, man, every day, just getting better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how it plays out with these two series, Toronto and Philly, as we said, kicking off tomorrow. As we're recording this on Friday afternoon, they're kicking off tomorrow, and followed by Boston and Milwaukee on Sunday. And meanwhile, the West has to finish out their series. Clippers and Warriors tonight, Nuggets and Spurs tomorrow night. So we're going to come back, Dub, once the Western Conference is set, and we'll run through those two series, whatever the matchups are, and we'll have the same drill. We'll go through the series and make our picks, and then sit back and enjoy the games. But as always, man, I enjoyed having a few minutes to talk with you about the Eastern Conference semifinals, and hope you enjoy the games, man. They should be good ones.
Well, from the little bird that landed on my tree told me you can go ahead on and put the Warriors in their rightful position against the Rockets, and you can go ahead on and put Spurs over there versus Portland Saturday, because the little bird told me that, man. That's what he told me. So I'm just passing it on to you. You can take that information, do what you want to do with
it. Duly noted. And of course, I mean, the good thing for you is if it doesn't turn out that way, you could always point to the bird. So
Hey, I had a choice. I didn't have to listen to him now. I came out and told you, I believe the bird. I believe the bird.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Warriors. And look, we both picked the Spurs to beat the Nuggets, and so I'm sticking with that one. But obviously, a Game 7, anything can happen. So it'll be exciting to watch it, and so we'll see. But in any event, we will come back and we'll see whether we were right, and we'll see whether or not you can trust that little bird of yours.
All right, man. That's my partner, man. Don't talk bad about my partner.
All right, LDub, man. Good talking with you, man. And I look forward to catching up with you in a couple of days when we break down the West.
As always, Jeff, it's been my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Later.